Alrighty, folks, I'm trying to get around here so that I can get this presentation on video. It's dark in here because I can. So we have the Arizona Repeater. He's not going to give up the mic, so that's okay.
Oh, here.
So anyway, we have the Arizona Repeater Club here today. The president is Gary, and I'm not going to give you last names because I don't remember. But we have Gary, we have Tim, and we have Chris. Chris is over here on the projector. So they're going to give us a presentation on GMRS radios. So make sure you pay attention. Oh, I'm sorry, you can't hear me back there? Oh, no. You're probably better off not hearing me. So which one of you wants the mic?
Well, how you doing?
Good. Good.
Hey, I appreciate you being invited down here so we can talk to you tonight about our club, and it's the Arizona GMRS Repeater Club, and GMRS is General Mobile Radio Service. And you remember back in the day with CB radios, that kind of two-way radio. Well, GMRS is a two-way radio, but it's more updated, more technically advanced, does a lot more stuff. Works on FM instead of AM, so you have less static and problems and interference and that kind of thing. So, and you can also use repeaters up on a mountaintop that really get your signal out there really far. So that helps out a lot too. But we're just going to go over a little bit about our members are licensed GMRS operators. You have to have a license. And we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. And a lot of our people are also ham radio operators as well. So we kind of just work together. We're just a radio club. We don't exclude people of one type or another. We accept pretty much anybody. So let's kind of get started here and get talking about this. Okay, so that's a nice picture of some cactuses that I have there. Doesn't have anything to do with the club though. So we're going to talk about three things. What GMRS is, kind of an introduction, the AGRCR club, and then club repeaters and how they work and that kind of thing, and how it helps people out who are out, really way out there. And there's plenty of places like that in Arizona. You know that cell phone just doesn't work. So next slide. Okay. Next
Do the same thing.
Okay. And boy, this is kind of small lettering. Okay, so I'll just have to talk about this. So as I mentioned, it's technically more advanced.
Sorry,
So
we won't focus in on that.
A sheet over there, if you want to pick that up, and that talks about the kind of compares different types of radios and what they can do and what they can't do. So you can have mountaintop repeaters that significantly increases your range. You can talk a lot farther. I mean, it's just nothing like these little handheld, little tiny walkie-talkies, the FRS units that a lot of people have. They only talk for a mile or two, maybe if you're lucky. But these are way different. GMRS, we have repeaters. We have there's a repeater up on Towers Mountain, which is up by Crown King, and we had somebody that was able to talk from Santan Valley through that repeater all the way up to that lake up there, almost near Flagstaff there. So that's a pretty good little hop there. No, it wasn't Lake Mary.
Mormon.
Stoneman. That's it. That's what I was trying to think of. Stoneman Lake, he was up there. So that's a pretty good hop. The power output for GMRS is a lot different than those little tiny walkie-talkies, those FRS radios that you see. They are limited to no more than 2 watts, and GMRS radios can use up to 50 watts. So it makes a big difference. 5 watts for the little portable radios. And then it's regulated by the FCC rules, Part 95. equipment needs to be Part 95 or Part 90 certified for most organizations, for most clubs, just to make sure that, you know, the radio's working good and it's not off frequency and that type of thing. And you can use wideband or narrowband on GMRS. Licensing, you can get one license, and the good thing about it is you can get one license, there's no test, comes your entire family, your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, just about everybody in your family, and they don't even have to be in your own household. But it covers your entire family. They can use the same license. It costs, right now it costs $70 for 10 years, which is a pretty good deal. But the FCC has recently elected to change that, and now that's going to go down to $35 for 10-year license. It's not in effect quite yet, but that's going to happen. You know how bureaucratic processing is. So once it gets done with that, that's going to happen. And you have to be 18 years old to get the license. It's not available to businesses, so it's not really for a business and that type of thing. It's for personal use, for people, for groups of people, that type of thing. And it uses UHF, or ultra high frequency, which is line of sight. So you don't really have to worry about things like you used to have to worry about with CV, and you know, you have some signal coming in, bouncing in from, you know, some other part of the country and interfering with you trying to talk. You don't have that kind of thing with UHF. You can use commercial equipment, or they make specific GMRS radios that are approved for GMRS. You can use those. And they are compatible, though, with those little FRS radios. So if you have those radios, you can talk back and forth with the GMRS radios with those if you're out camping, hiking, you know, whatever you're doing out there, hunting, that type of thing. Or the kind of thing that you guys do, same thing. Repeaters can also be linked together. So that also extends the range even more. So you can have a repeater. We're working on a project right now. We're gonna link our repeaters. We have one on White Tank Mountain. We're gonna link one in Scottsdale and at least one in Mesa, and they'll all be linked together. So that way we cover the whole valley a lot easier. So if I'm over in Mesa and I want to talk to somebody over in Wickenburg, no problem. I can do that. Okay, next slide. There we go. Okay, so this kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about is how many people are active. There's a lot more people getting more active with GMRS lately. There's 95,000 in the U.S. that are actually licensed. In Arizona, there's almost 3,300, and in our club we have about 168 members or so, I think, last time I checked. Okay. And then let's just talk about the club for a little bit here. And we were founded in 2016. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We went through that process. The dues are only $36 a year, and that covers your membership, your access to the repeaters. Right now, our members have access to 9 repeaters in Arizona. That includes the repeaters around the valley. We have a repeater up that our members can use the Towers Mountain, which is up by Crown King. Another repeater up by Payson, which is Diamond Point. Another repeater up in the White Mountains, which is Greens Peak. So we cover a lot of area. And we're working on getting more repeaters up there as well, or making agreements with repeater owners so that our members can use it. And let's see what else we got here. We have radio nets, and a radio net is, if you're not familiar with that, that's just like a meeting on the radio. That's basically what that is. People call in, We talk about things, we have training, and people can kind of check out the radios, make sure they're working good. And we have that once a week, called 1900 Net, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. And the nets are held on 462.550 megahertz, which is the frequency for the repeater there. And we also have daily, weekday morning and afternoon traffic and weather nets. And we give out information, and then people who are out there and they happen to see a traffic problem, they can call in on the radio and let us know about that as well. We also have, every Tuesday, we have Travel Tone Tuesdays, and a person who is not a member of the club and doesn't have our specific tones to get into the repeater can call in on the National Travel Tone and kind of try out the repeater, check it out, see how it's working. You know, see if it works for them. And we also have the Emergency Services Group training net after the 1900 net every Tuesday. And then the Emergency Services Group is kind of the public service arm of the club. And we provide emergency communications. Those cell phones just don't work, the infrastructure goes down, the internet is down, that type of thing. We provide emergency communications for people there. And like I mentioned before, we have GMRS and ham radio operators.
Nice.
And we also have trained weather spotters, trained by the National Weather Service when there's a weather problem. If we ever have monsoons again, then we'll be active again on that. And we provide some support for events and communication support for any public safety agency that asks us. We'll help them out. We also have free training for our members in emergency communications and kind of keep them up to date on that. Okay, and some of the activities we do, we go out and we assist with different events. Fortunately, a lot of those events have been canceled in the last year, but when they're having events, we go out, we assist them, we work with them to help them out, we support them with communications and other things. We also go out and we have radio direction finding, which is a lot of fun for a lot of people, and that's where you have a transmitter and you get to find out where it is with radio direction finding. And the winner, when we have our challenge, the winner gets a prize on that. Okay. And well, this is where we helped out with the Buckeye Marathon, and we've been involved for that like what, 6 years? 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So we've been helping them out as well. Now talking about the repeaters, we've got a White Tanks repeater, that's a club repeater. We've got a Scottsdale repeater and 2 Mesa repeaters right now. Some of those, the Scottsdale, Mesa, and both of the Mesa repeaters are member owned, and they allow us to use their repeaters. And club dues go towards maintaining those repeaters, because it costs a lot of money for those repeaters. It's actually kind of like prime real estate on some of these mountaintops. It actually is. So costs money to run those things up there and pay for the rent. Let's see, and those are the club repeaters are owned by or run by the club. The member repeaters are run by the members, and then we also have additional repeaters where we have agreements with the owners of the repeater in various locations that let our members use the repeaters, and that really expands our ability there. And I don't know if you can see that real well or not, but that's Maricopa County with a black line, and that shows the coverage of our current repeaters that we have. in Maricopa County. So it pretty much covers the whole county and also goes down into Pinal County as well. Let's see, connected repeaters. And we also have the ability for people who have their cell phone, they have an app called Zello that can connect to our repeaters as well. And our repeaters are going to be linked. And in possibility, they can be linked to the whole, another network that's the whole southwestern area of the United States, possibly in the future. That may happen.
And being able to connect to select sites across the entire U.S.
Right, right. They actually have a national network now too, so that's something else that's going on. We also have our radio nets. As I mentioned before, we can have an emergency net at any time. We have the traffic nets during the week in the morning and afternoon. We have the 1900 net on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. The ASG net after that, and then the travel tone Tuesdays. And then the emergency services group is, like I mentioned before, it's our group within the group that helps out with emergency communications, and we do exercises and make sure that if something happens, like what happened in Nashville, for example, where some crazy guy with a bomb knocked out the cell phone service and the telephone service and the internet in a whole region, then we have the ability to run communications through our repeaters and even simplex if our repeaters go down. So we work on that. Okay. And this guy was having a problem in pacing. Kind of a little quick turn or something. I'm not sure what that was.
Hey, John, I didn't know you drive four-wheelers.
Oh, yeah.
18-wheelers.
18-wheelers, right.
Yeah, no, that's,
Okay, so the emergency services group is to help the public make a connection to the police, fire, or EMS in emergency. We've done exercises where we have had simulated emergency calls, call in on the radio, and get relayed, assuming that telephone lines were down, they get relayed into the Phoenix EOC, which then relays it to the Phoenix Fire Department, and those messages get through anyway. Okay. And then we've got training courses for members and the public. As I mentioned before, our people are trained and certified with FEMA training. We do exercises. We have emergency procedures when things don't go so well. And we have equipment. We have a trailer we can use, radio equipment, portable generators, portable repeaters, and that type of thing. And then we get to our membership. The yearly membership is $36. And then we have a membership which is like for like a couple of weeks, if somebody just wants to use the system, they're going to be in town, we allow them to do that. And then we have an annual membership, or annual life membership as well. Okay, what else we got? And then the definitions, as I mentioned before, a net is an organized meeting on the radio. A repeater is just a transceiver, usually way up high on a mountaintop or something like that, that lets us communicate a lot further. So that's the end of the presentation that we have there. Did you want to run that video?
I think it would be a good idea. It might help
Okay.
illustrate some things.
All right, this is a quick video. It only takes about, 4 minutes or
It's
so?
about 5 minutes
Yeah,
or so.
and it kind of explains one of the ways that GMRS radio is being used in California by people who are in those areas where they have those really terrible wildfires and all that destruction, and it knocked out literally thousands of homes. So,
Whole town, too.
and a whole town. You're right.
Let me get the microphone.
So we're gonna put the microphone on.
Does that kind of work? I got
happened was the terrifying inability to communicate with loved ones, with anyone.
It was gut-wrenching. It was like having a knife inserted in your stomach and then twisted, because I was under the impression for about 5 hours that my wife had died a fiery and horrific death.
Oh, thank God I got out of there. Okay.
Fires burned through phone, cable, and power lines, as well as cell towers.
I have no cell signal. I can't do anything.
There was no information on what to do, where to go, or just how dangerous the situations were.
When I didn't have communication with the outside world, I'm vulnerable. I don't like this. This isn't going to work for me.
So, Lois Miller connected with fellow Butte County neighbor Marissa Brower Gifford to figure out some kind of solution to the communication breakdown.
A fire in these East Foothills is a fire for all is a fire for the South County. It's a fire because it can go anywhere in a small amount of time.
People like Marissa and Lois, who live in rural areas, have to rely more on themselves and each other during emergencies. It could take too much time for help to arrive, if at all. Lois and Marissa held a community meeting in July of 2019. 100 people showed up, and they all felt the same, helpless. It was time for that to change. By the end of that meeting, a solution was proposed. Expert recommendations from two men who happened to be at that meeting, Kevin Fullerton and Theodore Cochran.
How we're going to communicate? Radios, battery, a network. Come on, we can do this. There's a way.
General Mobile Radio Service, or GMRS, is a two-way radio system similar to those family walkie-talkies, but with much more power and transmission distance.
This is WREA 911. John, are you available? Over.
This is Romeo Echo Alpha 864. Hi, Lois.
In 2 months, Lois bought her first radio. Soon after, about 75 of her neighbors bought them too. They put units in their homes, in their cars, and installed antennas on their roofs to get the most distance, some 50 miles or more. But there was still one problem. That ridge separating the east zone of Butte County from the west.
Right out here is the dam. So from that point there, going all the way down this ridge line to Bangor, is the affected area.
No worries. Theodore had the expertise and a plan.
Okay, well, over my shoulder is the repeater antenna.
An antenna that will capture all those GMRS signals, send them to this repeater, then back out the antenna to radios miles away.
It gave us the ability to tie the two zones together, which gave us the full coverage area that we were looking for.
And that includes a direct two-way signal to the Butte County Sheriff's Office. Kevin Fullerton is a Butte County Sheriff's Reserve Communications Officer. When a wildfire strikes, he and his team of 15 volunteers will be able to talk directly with everyone using the GMRS radios in the Mount Ida community, and will for the first 12 hours of any critical emergency.
And we're going to be sharing evacuation routes, the knowledge that we know about the situation, how it's playing out, and what we're doing to get people out of the area.
Power outages and down cell towers and phone lines are no longer an obstacle to communications. These radios are backed up with batteries.
Calling for WR.
Linda Oslin's neighbors have gathered at her Mount Ida home. They all spent the $250 to $600 for the radios and have nothing but praise for their new lifelines.
I can get on that radio if I need to contact somebody very fast without having to remember a phone number or where my cell phone is or something like that. So for me, it's very comforting. And just to hear voices too. John asked for a radio chat. You can always find somebody on the radio, and word of mouth is invaluable in an emergency situation.
This is Whiskey Romeo Echo Alpha 864. You're coming in loud and clear.
It took just a little time to learn how to use it. Every Tuesday night, the Mount Ida community conducts their net control, a roll call of sorts, giving everyone a chance to say hello and practice.
Yes, you're not alone. It's a party line. It's a party line. You get to know your neighbors. There's always somebody on the party line.
This old school technology has given them peace of mind, something today's technology couldn't.
Back to radio. First time we did our roll call, I slept like a log.
Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of what they're doing over there.
Here you go, Gary.
Give you an idea of what they're doing over there in California, and that's not the only group that's doing that. There are more that are doing that over there as well. So now I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions, and then I'm going to let Chris have something to say, and then Tim can demonstrate the radio equipment over there. So any questions on anything?
Can you do, like, I know hams have the capacity to track vehicles while you're doing, so you can look, put it down into your GPS and see where your group's at, how far out.
The APRS.
Yeah, APRS.
Uh-huh.
Can GRMS do that also? With the big base units, the 50-watt ones?
No, GMRS is not allowed to have any digital communications. There's a small allocation of, what brand was that? There was a radio brand that had a tracker between, it was little bubble pack radios, but they didn't get out very far, and it did give personal location type tracking, but that was a one-off thing by the FCC. So, we don't replace ham by any means, but it's great for the family side of things.
Right. And there are some radios still that will send GPS information, but right now the only thing that's authorized is the lower wattage units, 2-watt units right now. But there's a proposal that is still in front of the FCC to change that. So, could change. I don't know. Any other questions? Not as slow as they are. Yeah. No? Okay. Chris, did you have anything?
Yeah, I'll give my personal stuff here real quick. So for me, getting involved with the club, my name's Chris. I'm the treasurer for the club. Thank you for having us, by the way. I got involved because of my family. My wife got involved, got the kids involved, and those pictures you saw out there at the race and stuff, they were out there handing out water. We were doing the radio communications. It was a great activity for the kids and the family. The wife, she finally came around to the radio. She let me put one in her car and drill a hole in her roof for an antenna. That was a big moment for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, then she got using the radio, and there's been many times where the phones, you just try to dial out on a regular day, and it just sits there and sits there and sits there trying to connect, and you just pick up the radio and boom, you're there. So, but that's what's been for me with the club, is just having that instant communication and activities for the kids. It's been great.
And then Tim here is going to demonstrate and talk about some radio.
Okay.
Hello, thanks for letting us speak before you tonight. My name is Tim, and I have been involved in radio for about 45 years. When I got my ham license, and even before I got my ham license, I was involved in CB, and I was too young to have my own license, so I think my parents got the license and I used it. Later on I got my own CB license and was involved in CB for a while, but realized quickly that there's a lot of limitations to CB, and that's when I started studying for my ham radio test. And there are limitations to that because every single person has to have their own license. Every single person has to pass the test, which is technical and the rules and regulations. And so a lot of people would like to talk to their family on the radio, such as Chris and myself, but the other family members aren't going to get a ham radio license. So when I got involved with GMRS in the first place, I knew about it back in the 70s because when I got my CB license, I heard about something called Class A CB, which was basically what GMRS is now, only with a lot more expanded capabilities and features. And I heard that you could use high power radios and that you could use FM instead of AM, and it would be a lot clearer. But the equipment back then was extremely expensive, because it was in the UHF band. The equipment was, your entry point for a brand new radio was around $1,000. The only people that had those radios were public safety agencies. So when GMRS really started to take off, it was when they were retiring all this old equipment from the public safety agencies that then got converted to be used in the GMRS frequencies. And there's a whole long story behind that, but I'm not going to get into it. But when Katrina hit past Christiana, Mississippi, and all those areas down there, I was on a team that went down to help do some rebuilding. And before I went, I wanted to have some communications, so I got 2 of those little blister pack radios, we call them. Well, our teams were spread out pretty far, and there was no way we were going to talk. So it was kind of discouraging, and I kind of let my license lapse and didn't get involved in it anymore. But I still kept my ham radio license. And then when we moved here from Illinois, I went to work for a two-way radio company, and he happened to have a repeater on white tanks that was not being used. We used it on the way into work and the way back from work. I talked to him on the radio, and I said, we ought to get that out to the public so everybody can use it. And we were trying to figure out a way to pay for it because it cost thousands and thousands of dollars a year. You got your BLM fees, you got your building you have to heat and air condition, you've got a lot of other things you have to do.
That road maintenance up that mountain.
And the road maintenance up the mountain. There's actually a repeater association of repeater owners on the top of White Tanks. They get together once a year and they have to pay dues to help maintain the roads and all that other stuff. So, my boss said, if you can get enough people, start a club, you could charge dues, and then you could use that money to pay for the repeater, and that could be your repeater. Because he was planning on taking it down because he needed that rack space in his equipment room for a commercial radio customer that was going to pay a lot of money to have their own repeater up there. And so we began working on it, and I started getting like-minded people to join us, and Gary and Chris are some of the other founding members of the club, and pretty soon we had 5, pretty soon we had 10, and now we're up to like 168, I think this slide said. So we're growing all the time, and the purpose is just so that families can communicate, and that we can provide emergency communications when everything else goes down. Because the repeater on White Tanks is backed up by a generator, and that generator will run 2 weeks without shutting down. So there's going to be power up there for quite some time if everything else hits the fan. And a lot of people don't know this, but guess what's the first thing that goes away when there's a true emergency? Cell phones. Because they give priority, they take away priority from all of us, and they give priority to the emergency services people who have to get through. So the government gets priority, emergency services get priority, the citizens basically can get the cell phone service if they can get it. So GMRS is a great tool for being able to communicate with your family. And like Chris and Gary said, one license covers the entire family. So you get one license, and our club is very follow the rule of law. So you have to use your call sign. You have to be respectful. And the radio waves are G-rated only. And we just encourage proper operation, and we encourage people to be respectful of each other and yield this time on the repeater if somebody else needs to get a message through. And it's really a great community. And and the repeaters are just awesome. So we're going to do a little demo here, and hopefully Mike has not gone to bed. I'll turn this up a little bit so you can hear when he calls. WQIP 827, this is WQRV 902. WQIP 827, this is WQRV 903.
WQIP 827 here.
approximate location?
Well, I'm out here on the west side, Surprise, Arizona, out about Cactus and Litchfield Road.
Okay, thank you very much. And you want to go switch it over to white tanks and see how I can reach that?
No problem at all. This is the WQID 827.
WQRV 903, switching to white tanks.
Key about having multiple repeaters. Our white tanks repeater is partially blocked by the
WQID 827 on 550 Alpha.
See how it's a little more staticky? Okay, I can hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. WQRV 903 here. Yep.
Yeah. What makes it worse is we're inside too.
No, I switched over to the Omnis from Reno Scottsdale. Nothing heard. WQRV 903 click. I'm not even hitting the repeater. If we turn this antenna, why don't I do that?
I can hit it from my
Can you hit it on your head?
827-942, do you copy? I'm on stuff, so. Never mind, switching over white tanks. You're on 942. That was on white tanks, so.
Let's see if we can get some antenna height.
827-942, do you copy? And I went back to Scottsdale.
Let's take a look. Check this out.
This is PWI 942. Somebody give me a radio check on 550 Alpha, please.
Chris, is that you on Alpha?
Yes, sir. I'm on my portable here inside a building.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was you, and I can hear you, so, yeah, quite a bit of static, but definitely can hear you just fine. WQID 827.
Thank you very much, sir. WQWR 942. So that's the key, is to knowing your radios and using them, because we're inside a building. Antennas don't like to be inside buildings. So when we got them mounted on our trucks or we put them on top of the buildings, you get much better reception. Being able to hit white tanks with a mountain in the way, I'm actually pretty impressed.
At 903, if that was you out there, I copied you loud and clear. Must be something on your receive end that you're not getting me.
No, I can hear you pretty well. You're able to hear me now, WQRV 903.
Oh yeah, just as loud as the last time.
Okay, switched over to the Yagi and pointed it towards white tanks, because we're kind of blocked by Shaw View.
Oh well, that's strange, because your audio was really loud, a lot louder than on 700, so I was surprised that you didn't hear me.
Yeah, well, I was on the Omni then, so anyway, coming in loud and clear now, Mike.
Yeah, a directional antenna sometimes makes all the difference in the world.
Okay, thank you very much for the demonstration, and we'll talk to you later. WQRV 903, I'll be clear.
No problem, good demo. WQID 827.
Okay, so, I don't want to get too commercial here, but someday my boss is going to retire. Someday he's going to retire. He's older than me, so it's probably going to happen first. When he does, we're a two-person company, and so it's going to probably go away. So I started my own company. With his blessing and his assistance, I started Radios Across America, and I'll be selling all kinds of two-way radio equipment. If you're not a customer already of Procom, you can come to me. If you are a customer of Procom, please stay loyal to him. And I've got brochures here, I got some business cards, and I do this in the evenings and weekends and in the morning before work and during my lunch hour. Basically causing my wife to be an involuntary widow. But it's what's going to hopefully fuel our future and our retirement, because I can't live on Social Security, and expect me to maintain the lifestyle which I've become accustomed, as they say. So I need something to supplement it a little bit, and I love doing radios. Once you get bit by the radio bug, you may never ever stop doing radios in one way or another. So does anybody have?
I own 35 different radios.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions at all? about equipment, about the rules, about licensing.
How much money are you talking about for equipment?
Well, you can get a good used handheld for about $150 to $200. You can get a good used base station for about $250 to $300. Many times you can get it for less. You just, but the main thing to do is don't buy the cheap Chinese crap. The stuff they're selling on eBay,
Don't work.
it doesn't work, and most of it is not legal to use in the United States. It hasn't gone through the type acceptance that ensures the spectral purity and the type tolerances that are required in the radio spectrum to prevent interference and all that stuff. So if it's sold on Amazon, run as fast as you can away from it. Talk to a real two-way radio dealer or somebody that's involved in the two-way radio industry, because people are just buying all kinds of stuff. They try to put it on the air, it doesn't work for them, they can't hit the repeaters, they get frustrated, and also a lot of those radios can be programmed to operate. In fact, some of the radios even come programmed with frequencies that are 1,000,000% illegal to use. One of them, somebody brought in a radio to us and it had 2 DPS channels in it. They could just come right up on the DPS channel and talk right over the DPS guys. And then they have all these other frequencies in them that, unless you have an FCC license, it's not legal to be on there. And if the FCC ever catches you, the fines, I think, started around $10,000 a day. And so it's best to be smart and defer to a professional. Anybody in the club who's been in there for very long can advise and help. And we have, once a person is a member, they will be able to see, well, even if they're not a member, they'll be able to see the list of approved radios for use on the repeaters. And that keeps growing.
We do have several members who have extra radios that they're selling. And a lot of these, like the Kenwood mobile radio there, a lot of those go anywhere from $100 to $200. They've even gone as low as $50 you can find them for.
Yeah, and if you're going to operate it at home, you need a power supply. So that always adds another $50 to $75 to it. You need an antenna, like the omnidirectional antenna, and you got to mount it on your roof, and you have to have good quality feed line to get to the antenna, because otherwise you don't get enough power to the antenna to do anything. This is UHF, it's not CB, so it's a lot more sensitive to how much power is lost in the feed line. And yes, sir.
Is there any controls on mounting these on homes?
Well, if you have a HOA, someone would like to say that they can control that, but there are ways to disguise the antenna. One guy said he just raised his vent pipe from his bathroom vent pipe. He raised it up the height of the antenna, and then he put the antenna inside of it and ran the coax out the side and down into his house. So there's ways to get around those things.
Put a potted plant on your back porch with the antenna in the center of the plant.
GPS frequencies, I heard you could, if there's an accident, you can report it on there. Is that true or not?
For DPS, unless you have a life or death emergency,
Yeah.
if you have a life or death emergency, you can use any frequency.
Because I gotta say, if
But for
there's an
DPS,
accident,
no, DPS, they'll send the FCC and the government after you if you contact the DPS for a traffic accident.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, too, you don't know if you're going to be able to reach them, because what tone you're hearing them talk on is not the tone
you're sending.
to actually access their system.
Yeah.
And you won't know if you're actually working unless you do a test. To do a test is illegal, so.
But if you call one of us, it will be have to be real.
Yeah, we relay all the time. I had a traffic accident happen right next to me. A motorcycle crashed right in the back of the car. I had my radio right on me, so I jumped out of my truck right on the 101 freeway in Deer Valley. Got on the radio while I was helping the guy, and I think it was Gary or Tim, which one of you guys relayed the info to DPS, got medical out there, and it just worked out great. I wasn't having to hold the cell phone up and just relay info back and forth. So.
Any other questions? Okay. And if you want, you can feel free to come up and pick up one of my business cards and a brochure, and I'll hand it over to Gary.
Okay, Tim, You were in radio for how long?
45 years.
Well, I was in for 49 years, so I win.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
So, we're gonna just start some drawing. John, you have tickets you need to put in the drawing thing.
I do?
Don't you? Okay.
I probably do. I've been busy doing
We'll
this.
go do that.
All right.
All
All right, so that's going to conclude our,
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
that's going to conclude our
Second.
meeting for this
Okay,
evening. I
we're
hope you
adjourned.
guys learned
So we're gonna
something.
do the drawing.
GMRS
number
radio
five
is a
goal.
good idea.
So you
Never
know that.
know when they're going to shut our cell phones down.
All
So
right.
think about it. Y'all have a good night,
we
and
have five
I'm
goals.
out.